guys, it's Olivia and welcome back to Live in Literature. Thank you so much for all the love and support received to my last video, and if you have not seen it yet, feel free to head on over to my channel to check it out. Well guys, welcome to this fun fall-filled day. Welcome back to the channel. I am so excited about today's video because as you've seen from the title of today's video, we are talking about my favorite medieval fantasy book recommendations, okay? Medieval fantasy books. Now, we've been seeing a trend for the past year. Over the course of this entire year, we've been seeing a trend for female knights and or a return to medieval fantasy. And I am thoroughly enjoying this trend, okay? I am loving this like call to arms, this like return to the traditional castles and knights and dragons and questing. It's feeling very like Lord of the Rings vibes. Like all I am hearing is this song. I'm gonna play it right now. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, I can hear it in my head. It's like all like connecting and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, it just feels so of that energy of like friendship and fellowship and traveling and like epic quests and prophecies and...
What are we holding on to, Sam? That there's some good in this world, Mr. Fertile. And it's worth fighting for.
These like lone heroes who are made into gods and they are like legends throughout in their stories, and then they just have to go and defeat, very much conquering good from evil vibes. Like, it's been a really interesting call to arms that I've seen this year. And again, like, obviously I want to do a whole separate video on lady knights. I feel like we have had this year has been the year of lady knights, let alone in the past, I'd say so far this year, we've had 4 books dedicated by different authors who I'm all huge fans of, write books about lady knights and female knights in shining armor. And to that end, I am thrilled. I'm absolutely so excited. I'm loving the lady knight trend. I hope it never ends. It's been really fun, but it's really interesting to see like the book trends and the book world change over the years. Obviously, as you know, like trends change and things change. So for instance, like a couple years ago, obviously it was the Fae. The Fae are still present, I would say, but like they're becoming less present. They're becoming more of a less like written thing because they had such a big time. Like they had literally taken the world by storm. I would say from probably 2020 to about 2022, it was like the time of the Fae. Everything was Fae. Nothing was not Fae. It was all Sarah J. Maas all the time. Truly, I would love nothing more than if it was Sarah J. Maas all the time.
It was a lovely dream, too.
Regardless, and then we had kind of a switch. We had a couple years of like the witches were really big, and I would say last year was a big year for the vampires. I say vampires had a huge rise last year, and this year has been the traditional medieval knights, female knights specifically, kind of change things up. Kind of tales that we've been seeing. And to that end, I'm thrilled. Like, I am absolutely loving it. I love this call to arms. I love returning back to like very traditional fairy tale vibes. But again, each of these authors is doing something with it that has like a twist to it. And I think it's phenomenal and fantastic. So what sparked this idea for me was I just finished reading. So obviously you guys know I finished Wild Reverence, which I'm going to talk about in today's video. But then I also finished The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. Oh, this book.
Now this is gonna hurt a little bit.
Huh?
I say this is gonna hurt a little bit.
Okay.
We'll be talking about it in today's video, but this book was flipping fantastic. Cannot get over the prose and the words. I highlighted several sections of this book. It is beautiful. If you're not a fan of Alex E. Harrow, get freaking on it, okay? Alex E. Harrow is a wonder, a master with a pen and some paper. Like, truly writes some of the most beautiful books I have ever come across. And this is one of them. And I am so excited to talk about it in today's video. But this video was inspired by that because this is one of the Lady Knight books that was written this year. And it is a true medieval fantasy that has to do a lot with politics and the creation of a nation. And like, how much are you willing to give up to create a nation? And like, the bloodshed and the turmoil and like the life of a soldier essentially is like what this is about. So can't wait to talk about this one, but this is kind of what inspired my reading this week and inspired this video. Like I said though, a lot of the books I'm going to be recommending today are ones that I have obviously recommended in the past, several that I've recommended recently, like Wild Reverence. Okay, I am going to talk about that one again. But I just want you guys to know I did try to scrounge up some ones that you may not have heard of or may not have read yet, in hopes that you guys will go, conquer, see, fight.
Well, you know where he is. Go, confront the problem, fight, win!
And essentially lean into these traditional tropes of like good versus evil and like castles and dragons and the whole bit. Like, I am very inspired by this time of writing, and I think it's really, really beautiful to see us turning to a different era of writing with like their small twists like in their own ways that these authors are creating. So very excited to talk about these books today. So without further ado, let's get started. First book I want to talk about, probably my favorite book of the year. Yes, people, I am calling it now. I don't know if it's going to change. I still have like a month and a half left of reading to decide what are my favorite books of 2025. But as of right now, this book is still my ultimate favorite and is the epitome of lady knights and medieval fantasy. We have The Knight and the Moth by Rachel Gillick. Now, I did talk about this one also in the Gothic fantasy book recommendations, but I do think that this book pleads a great case for medieval fantasy. This book is about a young woman who lives in a convent. She and her sisters essentially live in this abbey that is very creepy, and they essentially interpret the omens from the gods. Now, the king of this nation comes to the abbey to have his fortunes told. He finds out he gets 6 bad omens, and this sends him away. She meets a heretic knight who works for the king, and this knight is like, I don't believe in the gods, and she's like, well, I do. And they like have an enemies to lovers thing going on. It is very sexy. Anyways, as time goes on, her sisters who live in the abbey with her start disappearing until she's the last one left. And so she seeks out this heretic knight and his band and the king and asks for their help. Please help me find my sisters who were taken from this abbey. And they go on an epic quest to find her sisters and to discover more about the omens that she reads the fortunes of. So this book, the reason why I would say that it makes a great case for medieval fantasy, not only is it about a king on a quest, this king in this book is on a quest to discover more about the omens that this country is so fond of and is like the religion of this country, as well as the fact that this one is about a lady knight, okay? And they have knights in shining armor who are sworn to protect the king, but our lead female character, she becomes a lady knight as this book progresses. I mean, even on the front cover, you have kind of both of her as her in her knight in shining armor and then her in her like more like abbey like esque kind of clothes. This book is quite literally haunting, jaw-dropping, truly whimsical and magical in its dark gothicness, and also a great like good versus evil, conquesting, seeking it out, and like getting prophecies from the gods and then essentially acting upon those things in this book. I truly think this is the best book written so far this year. I have not been proven wrong yet by any of these books, but I'm waiting for some book to prove me wrong.
I'm right, you're wrong. Shut up.
I freaking loved this. It was fantastic. It is 5 stars. Please go and read it. It will be perfect for your fall TBR. Next author I want to talk about, I have 2 books by this author, both within, I would say, the medieval fantasy category. One is slightly different, but I think it still gives the same message and the same energy. We have Rebecca Ross's Wild Reverence and Rebecca Ross's A River Enchanted. Now, let's start with Wild Reverence. As you guys know, I just finished this book. I talked about it last week. And essentially this book is about the gods, okay? So if you haven't read Divine Rivals, I do recommend you read Divine Rivals before you read this one. Technically, it's a prequel, but you don't have to. Regardless, it doesn't matter. This is about a young goddess named Matilda who has been kept secret most of her life. She lives in the underling part of the god world. There's the underling, there's the skylings. And she receives these dreams about a boy in the mortal realm named Victor. And Victor and her become friends like in his dreams. And one day, Matilda has to run away from home. And Victor doesn't hear from her for like 10 years. And he thinks that she's gone and he just made her up or something. Then one day, Matilda has to come back to the mortal realm to deliver a message to Victor. When she sees him and she sees like what state he's in, he's defending his castle and defending his family's homeland on this castle that is like essentially in the middle of this like river, this massive river. And she comes to him and she's like, I will help you like save your homeland and save your castle. And like, I will help you. I will be a goddess to you to help you like defeat these people that are surrounding you. So this is a really great knight's tale in a way of like, this has to do more with like the castles and the prophecies and like what do the gods tell you sort of situation. This one also has battles and swords and knights in shining armor. The tale with Victor and Matilda is tragic and beautiful. Their romance is so beautiful and tragic. They are two people who like have lost this connection over 10 years time, not knowing if they can trust each other, but leaning into each other anyway during this time of tragedy and sorrow in Victor's life. And Matilda and him grow together in their relationship. It's really beautiful. Again, this was absolutely jaw-dropping, so beautiful. I wept, I cried like a baby. Like truly, I was weeping.
No! Oh, don't cry, are you?
Was fantastic, and it's so well written. This is such an epic tale about the gods and Matilda as a goddess, like, and her coming into her power and like the things that she's willing to do for those she loves. Like, I loved that take of it. I loved that it was still like, it's still the toils of mortal men, but then it's mostly about like these gods that live in like either of these realms. And essentially like opening yourself up to be hurt by the mortals and to feel that compassion and that empathy for their short lifespans. I just absolutely loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I think Rebecca Ross deserves every accolade and award for her writing. Truly a magical and whimsical tale, and with characters that I absolutely adore. Then you have A River Enchanted, which I would say definitely leans more on the medieval side of things, which is like, this one takes place on more of like a Scottish isle is kind of how I would describe it. It's more about like, I would say it's kind of almost super knights and castles, but there's still castles, there's still fortresses. It's almost like that era, like right before things like started to modernize too much. We're talking more about like, these are simple people living amongst like the highlands and the hills. They're farmers, but they're also knights, and they do things like they have to grow their own crops, but they still serve the leaders of their like clans. Essentially, there's clansmen and things like that. And again, this one has a lot to do with like the little folk and the fae folk, and of the time when the world was still really young and really like new, and it hadn't developed too much that they all went away. So this book is about a young bard named Jack Tamerlane, and Jack essentially went away to an island far away from them to do schooling and stuff, but he returns to his homeland of Cadence, which is a small island, and essentially the island is split into two. We have the Tamerlanes and then we have the Breckons. There's two separate clans. They're both rivals to each other, and essentially women of the Tamerlane clan, which is Jack's clan, are going missing, and some people suspect the Breckons. Adria, which is the young woman who is like, she's like not the leader of the clan, but she's going to be. She's like the leader in training, essentially, of the Tamerlane clan. She seeks Jack out and she asks for his help to essentially find these women. And Adria and Jack have a cute little romance. It's very sweet. There's also a second POV of a knight and his wife in this book that I absolutely love and enjoy. It's absolutely fantastic. So this is told in a 4-part POV. But again, this one is more about like the women going missing and like smaller like societal problems, as less of like the big conquesting sort of things. But I feel like it still reads medieval with like the setting and the timeline and the very like Scottishness of it and the very like island vibes. It feels very conqueror-esque, like with the two rival kingdoms. So again, absolutely love this one. It is fantastic. Again, it's another one by Rebecca Ross. If you enjoy anything by her, you will enjoy these two books that I recommended. This one is fabulous. The next one I want to recommend is more of a true Camelot and Arthurian retelling, which I think is absolutely fabulous. This is more of a feminist retelling from a different POV than you're normally used to seeing from these like Arthurian Camelot sort of retellings. This is Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian. Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian. Now, Half Sick of Shadows is about a young woman named Elaine of Shalott. And I didn't know about Elaine until I read this book. But essentially in all of the Arthurian tales, we have obviously Arthur, Guinevere, Lancelot, and Morgana, his sister. So again, Arthur, the king, his sister Morgana, Guinevere, his lover, but then she betrays him because she falls in love with Lancelot, and Lancelot is Arthur's best knight. And then there's Elaine.
I just don't have the energy for this. I am unsubscribing from this drama.
And Elaine is cursed to see the future. She can like see into the future. And essentially you have a group of these 5 friends who essentially are there to like help Arthur take Camelot and to like reclaim his throne of Camelot. But Like, obviously they're seeking like there's a lot of outside betrayals and things seeking to overthrow this like inner circle, but really the thing that's going to break this inner circle apart is what's going on the inside between all these people. And Elaine essentially can see the future, and so she tries to decide like how far is she willing to go to like alter the paths of their futures to make sure that things end up right between this group. So again, this one is very like, is mostly told from Elaine's perspective, which I really appreciate. So she just can see more than the rest of the group. I loved the characters in this. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. This one's very mystical and very magical. It has all those traditional like Arthurian things with the sword and like with Camelot and with like Morgana and her magic and those kinds of things. I would say that Camelot has never been something that's like struck me as super deep until I read something along this line. And I really enjoyed this like feminist retelling of this classic legend from a different perspective. Like, I really enjoyed that, and I think that a lot of people will too. So if you're interested in Camelot and anything that has to do with King Arthur and the Round Table and the whole bit, I do recommend Half Sick of Shadows. The next one I want to recommend is by one of my absolute most favorite authors who I love and adore above all else, who truly is a master of all things. I truly love her. This is The First Girl Child and the Second Blind Son by Amy Harmon. Now, Amy Harmon, as I mentioned a lot on this channel, is an author of, she wears many hats of her authoress, okay? She is both a fiction author, a romance, a historical fiction, and of course, a fantasy. Now, she wrote this duology, which I think is really beautiful, and she has made note that she does want to continue this duology called The Daughters of Salok, and I'm really interested to see if she continues on with it. But essentially the premise is this one's also going to be more like a River Enchanted vibe. Like, this one's going to have those vibes of a River Enchanted, where it's more of like the beginnings of a kingdom that are growing. Essentially, we have a young man named Bear, I just call him Bear of Salok. And essentially, Bear was cursed with this thing letting him know that all the daughters of Salok, there will be no more daughters born in this kingdom. Well, a young daughter is born very soon after Bear is born, and essentially his whole sworn duty is to protect this young girl. And she is the last daughter born in Salok for like 20 years. Her name is Alba. And Bear and Alba essentially grow up together. And as they age, you know, he like falls in love with her and she falls in love with him, but then they're separated at a time. And essentially they are what is going to like essentially reunite the kingdom, but they don't know it. And they have to uncover this curse and stop this curse that has taken over this small island. Now, The Second Blind Son is almost like an interconnected novel. It's about a different young woman who lives in Salok. Her name is Gisela, and she washes up on the shore from a distant kingdom. And essentially there's a young man named Hode there, and Hode brings her into his life and he tries to protect her. And essentially he's like, you should go stay with Alba and Bear up on the temple. Like, they'll protect you there. Like, you're one of the last women, like young women in this kingdom, because there's no more daughters of Salok. And so Gisela goes there, but she and Hode have a special connection. They fall in love. And essentially, I love both of these. They're fantastic. They're lovely, very, very cute. Both these books are based on Norse mythology and the Norse gods, and I really enjoyed that aspect of both of these books. These are, again, more like clansmen and prophecies and curses and uncovering those things in these corrupt kingdoms. And Alba, Bear, and then Hode and Gisela are all part of this interconnected world of Salok. And I'm interested to see if Amy Harmon will continue on with this series. Both of these are do tie up in a bow. They wrap up really nicely with their own interconnected stories. So I do highly recommend both of these if you're looking for something a little bit different, a little more Norse mythology, and a little bit more of those cursing sort of vibes. These both are definitely more about the story aspect and the plot aspect. The romance in this one doesn't come until way, way, way later, but I'm telling you, it's a really, really powerful book. And then this one, the romance comes up a lot faster. I think that's why I enjoyed this one a little bit more. I mean, go figure.
I think we should fire the sluts.
I hope not all the sluts.
You're not a slut, Justine. Stop trying to seem interesting.
But I really enjoyed both of these, and I think they're both really strong contenders in the medieval fantasy genre. Last but certainly not least, in our medieval fantasy recommendations, guys, I was talking about this at the beginning. You know her, you love her. This is The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. Now, The Everlasting. The premise of this book is essentially you have a young woman named Una Everlasting. She is a knight from back in the early ages of the kingdoms and dragons and castles. She has slain every creature. She did all the things that she was meant to do, and she is a legend now in the modern world. Fast forward to the modern world century, sort of. Like, I would say, like, imagine like a steampunk, like 1920, 1910, 1920s England. They don't ever give you like a direct, like what actual place this is, but imagine England. This is the country. The country's called Dominion, but it's like England. Anyways, we have a young man named Owen Mallory, and he's a historian. And Owen has made it his entire life's mission and passion to write the stories of Una Everlasting and to recount her entire life and to discover more and more and more about this amazing figure who changed the whole of Dominion as we know it. One day, Owen is approached by some high people in some high places in the country, and essentially is sent back in time to when Una Everlasting existed, and he gets to meet her. And essentially his whole goal is to get her to complete her last mission so that she can die a legend. But the minute that he meets the woman behind the legend, he realizes, I can kill a legend, but I can't kill her. And he essentially falls in love with Una Everlasting, and Una and him have this grand romance that is truly so beautiful between two very broken people. And they talk about a lot about the bloodshed and the struggles of war, and like, was it worth it? Like, is all of this worth it to create and unite a nation? Is the bloodshed worth it? And is the exiling and the isolation of people worth it? And creating enemies, is it worth it? So essentially this whole book talks a lot about like the conquering aspects and like what is it worth it to like essentially destroy another person's culture and another person's like people's culture and future to essentially like have this kingdom and to have this thing that they have. One of my favorite quotes from the book, and I will find it, let me see. Okay, so there are several really beautiful quotes from this book. One of them in this moment, like, first of all, the biggest quote of the book, I would say, that is like the most powerful is, Una says this and says, quote, "Who is free who loves another?" Like, which I think is very true. Like, who is free who loves someone else? Because you are always tied to them, but you want to be tied to them. And then another one, she continues on with, "We all serve someone, we all command someone, but who? That choice, at least, is now ours." So for so long in the book, like, she is commanded and she is told to serve and she is told to act, but she knows that as a legend and as a knight, like, that is her whole life. But essentially now the power is in her hands when she meets Owen of like, we all serve someone and we're all commanded by someone, but at least in this moment, we get to choose who. And I loved the epicness of this book. I loved the time traveling aspect of this book. I loved Owen as a character. I thought he was completely unexpected, not the main male character that you're used to seeing. And Una's not the traditional female character you're used to seeing. And I loved how different they both were, and how there's another great quote in the book that talks about how, oh gosh, let me see if I can find it.
A few moments later.
So there's a really great quote in the book where because Una is so unexpected and she's not like the traditional women of this time that she exists in, and she has this really great quote which she talks about how like she's mistaken a lot whether she's a man or a woman and things like that, and people don't really know what to call her because she's just like this legend. She's just this thing. And she says, quote, "I am not sure which I prefer, to be taken for something I am not or to fail at being what I am." You know? Gosh, and I feel like a lot of times, like in our lives, we feel that way. Like, oh, do we fail at being like the perfect whatever? Do we fail at being the perfect thing that matches those like strict lines that society has driven? And I feel like this book does a great job of like breaking down those boundaries and like looking past those lines, looking past body and shape and face, and looking more inward on like inner beauty and like the possession of what goes on inside your body and like the heart that is underneath all this skin. So again, I loved this book. It made me weep several times. I was weeping profusely at the end. I wept and wept and wept. Oh my God. This book is all about cowards and how cowards are the bravest of them all. And truly, like, I love this book. I think it's a fantastic medieval knight's tale with dragons, castles, and swords and the whole bit. And truly, like, Una Everlasting is beautiful and wonderful. And this book is absolutely fantastic and just full of life, and I literally cannot recommend it enough. It is an epic love story, but it is also an epic story of these two individuals who find each other through all time and all space, and truly I'm obsessed with it. I think it's fantastic. It's one of the best things I've read all year, and I freaking love it, and you will too. So that is all the books that I want to recommend for you guys today. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Living Literature YouTube channel. Guys, if there's any videos that you want to see more on the channel, please feel free to comment them down below. Please go check out all of these amazing recommendations. I hope that you will enjoy them. If you want any more information on them, please feel free to comment it down below. But I love you guys the most, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.